Welcome back to another quality tutorial on the programming language Intersystems Cache Mumps Old School. Right, today's lesson, what we're going to do is practice commands if. So we can do if x equals 1, set y equals 2. Now what that will do is it'll say, right, if a variable exists called x and the value of that variable is 1, then create another variable called y and set the value to 2. Now this is going to crash out because the variable x doesn't exist. So you get an undefined. So what it's saying there is it couldn't find a variable called x. So if we right, then there's nothing in there. So if we now set x equals to 1 and rerun that command, so if x equals 1, set y equals 2, we will now see that there is a variable called y with a value of 2. Now let's just say, for instance, we've got a variable called x, but the value is 2. Right, what do you think will happen? There will just be the value x, because it hasn't set y, because even though there is a variable called x, the value of it is 2, but we're checking to see if it's a value of 1. And we're only going to set this, we're only going to create a new variable called y if x equals 1. So in this case it was 2, so that's why that hasn't worked. What we could do now is we could have something like, I don't know, set x equals 5, if x, I don't know, compares with 1n, then write it's a number. Right, not ints, it's a number. So what that will do is we will set a variable called x with a value of 5, and then we check in if x compares, that's what your question mark is. So a question mark is compares 1n. So basically it's saying if x compares with 1 numeric, then right, it's a number. Okay. Now let's set x equals 12. And we'll do that again. So if x compares with 1n, right, it's a single number. So we know that the value of x is 12, but we're only checking for 1 numeric. So we get nothing. Because Cache, Mumps is saying, right, I found x, it has got a value, but it isn't just one number, it's 2 numbers. I know number 12 is one number, but it's 2 digits, if you know what I mean. So it's saying if x compares with one number or one digit, right, it's a single number. So that's why it didn't print that. Whereas if we set x equals to 1 digit and run it again, it finds it. We could do the same for a string. So if say x, what we'll do is we'll do it the other way around now. Yep. It's a string. Right. What that's doing, we're going to set x to equals JSON. Actually, that's might bomb out because I've got a space there. I don't think I should have a space. So that's more like it. Let me start that again. It still worked, but anyway. So we're setting a variable called x with a value of JSON, and what we're saying there is if x does not compare with one number, right, it's a string. So that apostrophe thing equals does not. The question mark is compares. The 1n equals one numeric, one number. Okay. We could have something like set x equals 1, y equals 2, z equals 3. If x equals 1 and y equals 2 and z equals 3, right. So what we're doing there is we're setting x to equals 1, y equals 2 and z equals 3, and then we're saying if x equals 1 and y equals 2 and z equals 3, write all three. We could change that slightly to say something like this. Let me just copy that. So we'll change that to 4. Right. What we're doing there is we're setting x to 1, y to 2, but this time we're setting z to 4. And we're going to say if x equals 1 and y equals 2 and z equals 3 or z equals 4, write all three. Right? So in this case, z was 4. So if we reset z to be 3, press enter, that should still work. Because we can have z as 3 or 4. Now if we set z to 5, it doesn't work. Okay? So a comma between variables in an if equals and an exclamation mark means or. I think this is going to be a really short one, so we'll leave it at that, because the next tutorial is going to be about ordering down data, and then we're going to write a small routine.